I think a good place to start is just to tell folks who maybe have missed it, what is Joop and Juice? And what is this trial working group all about?
We're a content and content support and ambassadorship focused. We've been working on it for many months. So we do a regular podcast where we bring the DAO to the world, right? So the DAO initially was limited to the Discord. So we're taking it elsewhere. And that includes content support, like I said. So we have the podcast, 1, and content support 2, which is where we take events and broadcast them to other platforms. That was such an immediate success. Like, we've achieved much greater numbers in many key events. So we're happy with that. And we're going to keep scaling that out and see where we can take it. To give you guys some context at home, me and Sax have been in Discord every day for the last 5 months working, and everyone can see what we're doing. A proposal is only as visible as the proposer. And that's really true, because even though you may be building something in the back end, for example, a database, the person building it needs to be visible.
What kind of results would make yourself happy? You're saying they go, okay, like, hey, I did a good job.
The biggest multiplication in DAO event attendance was like 60 times the people that would be in Discord, right? That's an up in the stars metric that we won't be able to get every time. But as long as we can keep growing, right?
What does the landscape look like for podcasts and Web3 at the moment? Because you guys are the only one that I know that does it on X. I know a couple that are on iTunes, but not on X. So I'm wondering if you were able to look into that a bit.
So we put a bit of effort into the proposal on making a case for podcasts. 87% of Americans trust podcast content more than media content, media advertisements, right? They're more likely to buy something after seeing a podcast ad than they are any other type of ad or something nuts. The podcast industry is like booming and blossoming, and I want Joop in the middle of it, right in the middle of it, because the Planetary Call is great, but you guys are so stretched thin. You can only address so many things in your 1.5 hours. We're planning to do more per week. And like Meow said, bring in people from outside and inside to talk regular. But yeah, it's booming. So let's talk a little bit about the proposal. So the proposal is up on Joop Research. If you want to know what we're doing, you can find out. We're looking for feedback. Be as critical as you can, but be constructive. Please don't be mean.
One of the biggest disconnect between for the large travel groups, right, is that it wasn't clear why they should be a full group. And over here, we need to have a certain vision. I mean, I do think that a Joop and Juice that gets the best community members, that they get the most important events and get the most important people in the space to kind of talk about it, you'll be amazing. You'll be fucking astonishing, right? You'll return value to the DAO in a way that's much more than what would we give. But that needs to be a certain process to it, right? I'm saying, no, and I don't want to end up in the same situation where 3 months later, look at it, go, okay, this makes sense as a trial, but we don't see this as a long-term thing. So I feel like that is actually very important.
I would pile on there. I think like the primary differentiator between someone who is receiving grants for a podcast versus a work group who's doing a podcast is like, can it have the autonomy to solve its own problems without having to, talk to me or talk to Slorg or talk to Meow or these things? Can you solve all of your own problems and hire for those things and figure those things out? Because I think that's the key differentiator, because if you can do that autonomously, well, then you should be paid autonomously to do that without having to, rely on the other arms of the DAO who might be less informed on, what goes into a podcast. I would just say leave feedback now, because as soon as the vote goes live, it will be too late for feedback. So if you want to see something changed, talk now.
All right, folks, go check out the proposal on the Joop Research Forum. Get ready to vote. Thank you all to everybody from the community for coming out.